At the time of filming, there are 35 unalivers, non-survivors, antagonists, whatever word won't upset the YouTube algorithm in DBD. Of those, 23 of them are original creations by Behavior. So in a series of polls on my community tab, I asked you to tell me who is your favorite non-licensed or original character from the game. This is what you said. And of course, I'll be giving you my commentary along the way as well, because I can't help myself. Like, comment, subscribe for the algorithm, and let's go. In our first poll, we pitted the original cast, Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly, and Nurse together. Yes, technically Nurse was the first DLC character. Close enough. Despite Hillbilly winning this matchup, not a single person let me know in the comments as to why they voted for him. Plenty of love in the comments for Trapper, Wraith, and Nurse, but nothing for a resident chainsaw enthusiast. So I'm left to completely guess as to why 40% of people voted for him. He's got some decently gripping lore. It's tragic what his parents did to him, but then it's horrifying when he gets his revenge. But I think most people probably chose him because he's generally fun to play and fun to play against. I'm personally not very good with Hillbilly. In fact, I'm quite terrible if I do say so myself, which I do. But as long as I don't get Midwich, I still have a lot of fun playing him. Now, out of this choice, I would personally go with Trapper, mostly because he's the poster child of the game. When I think of DBD, I think of Trapper. He's this incredible, intimidating hulk of a man. He embodies the slasher vibe very well. And to me, his lore is fascinating. On the one hand, he's a truly bad guy, but then he bucks against the entity forcing him to kill, and then he's punished for it. So in that sense, he's more like a reluctant killer, at least by the time he gets into the fog. There's a lot I like about the others, but me, I'll go with Trapper on this one. But this isn't my list, it's your list. And so the community has voted, and Hillbilly goes on to the next round. Next up, we had Hag, Huntress, Doctor, and Clown. Huntress won this with a decisive 56% of the vote. Her lore was a big factor to this decision, at least according to the comments, which I 100% agree with. Not only is she also my pick for this bracket, but her lore is probably my favorite in the game. It's both tragic and epic. I feel like an entire movie could be dedicated to her fighting the Germans and the Russians. She terrified both armies so extensively that they stopped fighting each other, banded together in an effort to stop her, and still failed. It's gripping stuff, and as good as Doctor's is, I'm glad she won this one. And then there's our Lullaby, which is simultaneously both beautiful and haunting, which I love. Some of you may be wondering why I've chosen to include Ghostface here, and that's a great question, honestly. My rationale is that even though the Ghostface chapter is technically a licensed chapter, the character of Ghostface in DBD, Danny Johnson, is completely original to the game. Some people don't know that the license is not actually based on the Scream movies, but instead, Behavior licensed The Mask. So as far as I'm aware, aside from a few nods to the movies, as far as the lore is concerned, there's no tie-in to the Scream movies. He's an original character with his own original lore, just a licensed mask. So to me, as far as his character is concerned, he's original to DBD. And since we're talking about the characters in this poll, I think he fits better here. You may disagree with that line of thinking, and I totally respect it, but to me, that was the best way to handle it. Y'all know who my favorite is out of this bunch, so I was very happy to see our Vami Mami take second place. But the community's favorite licensed original killer out of this bracket goes to Ghostface. And again, besides people disagreeing with my rationale as to why I'd include him here, I didn't get much in the comments to explain why he won. Plenty for Plague and Spirit though. Now ironically, Ghostface is my least favorite out of this bunch, largely due to the fact that he's probably the one I'm the worst with. Something about his gameplay just doesn't click with me as well as the others. I think Spirit is strong and fun to play. Plague is my main because I find her gameplay very engaging. And Legion is fun if for no other reason than his chase music. Or their chase music, technically. But I've always struggled with being quick enough with Ghostface to be both stealthy, but not also let the trial get away from me. Admittedly, that is a me thing, and I'm not at all surprised that the community feels differently. Regardless of my feelings, I respect the vote, and Ghostface moves on to the next round. Oni wins our next bracket against Deathslinger, Blight, and the duo that you've definitely heard of, but never actually seen in the game. I was actually surprised that Deathslinger beat out Blight. I'm happy about it because I actually think Deathslinger is underrated, but I would have expected Blight to beat him. If I had to guess, it's probably because Blight is pretty tricky to play, especially for new players, whereas Deathslinger is only tricky for COD players. But I'm not surprised at all that Oni took this one. His gameplay is strong, he's fun to play and play against, though I am terrible at trying to survive against him. Some of you are going to point out that I'm pretty terrible at Survivor in general, and you're not wrong, but I'm especially terrible at going against Oni. I hear that roar at the start of a trial and I immediately think to myself, this is now just about how long can I survive, not whether or not I will. So I'm gonna go ahead and agree with the community on this one. I think Oni should win this round. Next up, we had Trickster v Artist v Dredge. And Dredge takes it with a commanding 50% of the vote. Once again, most of the comments were about either Trickster or Artist. However, a few Dredge mains did chime in and mentioned its sound and visual design as big wins for the character, which I couldn't agree more. It may be a close call between the Dredge and the Unknown for the most horrifying character for me in DBD. But speaking of the Dredge, its sound design is unsettling. Its visual design is grotesque. Its lore and the implication of it consuming its victims is horrifying. Its gameplay is fun and adds to its scariness. I've nearly crapped my pants working on a generator and suddenly the locker next to me will jiggle. Scary. It is one of the best designed characters in any horror medium, in my humble but correct opinion. Y'all know I love the artist too. Her visual and sound design are top-notch as well. Visually, she blends beauty and horror so well. And the sound of her crows and the bird-like noises she makes, disturbing. But as much as I love her, along with the community, I have to tip my hat to the Dredge. Now, to no one's surprise, out of this lot, Singularity destroys the competition with 60% of the vote. In the comments, his lore, gameplay, and overall aesthetic design were all mentioned. Several people did mention that Knight's lore is the best of the three, which I absolutely agree with. Now, granted, I may be biased because out of these three, Knight is actually the only one so far that I've done a lore video on, but his story is epic and bloody. I do think Skull Merchant is overly hated, especially now that she's had 2 reworks. Her lore is a bit of a mess, and y'all know how I feel about her original cosmetics being conflicting. But I do think she's generally fun to play, her new cosmetics are great, and her sound design is pretty epic. So I myself would put her above Knight. As much as I love Emo Lancelot's lore, I just don't enjoy playing him very much. However, I do agree with the community that out of these 3, all around, Singularity is the best character. His lore is good, his gameplay is fun, and his visual and sound design are great. All right, now we move on to round 2 and pick the winners together. Ghostface takes another commanding lead, which makes me sad because I love Huntress so much. At this point, I immediately regret including him, but it's too late to turn back now. I do appreciate how much love there is for Ghostface. I think he's good, but to me, Huntress is great. However, the community has spoken and Ghostface moves on. Now, before we finish off round 2, I wanted to take a moment to thank our channel members for their support of the channel. On top of supporting the channel, our members gain access to some unique perks, including non-DBD videos that are exclusive to members. Things like outtake videos. Also, me playing horror games. You want to see me scream my head off? Click that join button to learn more. Rounding out round 2, Oni crushes Singularity and Dredge with over 50% of the vote. Many people commented how hard this particular matchup was because they loved all 3, and I couldn't agree more. They're all great characters. Fun to play, solid lore, great visual and sound design. They're fantastic. My favorite of these 3 is solidly Dredge though. It is easily one of my favorite characters for all the reasons I stated before. I respect that Oni won. I respect the community's feelings on this one. I'm just sad that Dredge lost. All right, now it's time for our final round. Now I say it that way because of course it's taking me so long to record these days that Behavior actually released another original killer, The Unknown, as you all probably are aware, between me being able to run the community polls and actually being able to film this. So that kind of threw everything off. So we're gonna do a bonus round that includes The Unknown here in a second, but the original final round was between Oni and Ghostface. Now I was a little worried that Ghostface would actually win this one and I wouldn't stop catching flack for actually including him in on the original poll, even though I stand by my reasoning. I didn't expect him to come so close to winning, honestly. And I knew that if he won the whole thing, it would be very controversial, seeing as to how I had to start putting disclaimers on the polls that included him so that I would stop getting comments about it. But I'm really happy to report that Oni won this one, not Ghostface, so that I don't have to put a disclaimer on this video. So pre All Things Wicked, and at the time of writing the script, Oni wins with 59% of the vote. As you've probably figured out by now, I think Oni is a very well done character. His lore is great, his gameplay is awesome, and his sound, visual design, it's all great. The effects when he transforms are cool. Yeah, he's a great character. Well, I wouldn't have picked him to be number 1 myself. I respect that the community did. Or did they? Now for our bonus round. Now, obviously the challenge was how could I add the unknown without rerunning everything, right? So I decided to take several of the strongest contenders and pit them in a bonus poll up against the unknown to see how he, or rather it, would stack up. Now in a fascinating turn of events, the Unknown actually won this one. Now, it did end up being pretty close, but at first it looked like the Unknown was going to run away with this one. However, Oni did eventually catch back up, and it became much closer than I first thought it was going to be. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little hesitant to say with confidence that the Unknown truly is the community's favorite original killer. And with the Unknown being so new, I'm not really sure the community has had enough time with it to be able to fully form our thoughts. So I would be curious if after a couple months, the Unknown still held that spot. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't been able to play the Unknown yet because having a 7-month-old has made it very difficult for me to play DBD right now. And so as a result, my thoughts on him are really based around his lore and his aesthetic design. So please let me know down in the comments, do you agree that he is that good to take home the top spot as far as the community's favorite original character? Or is he really just kind of that new thing that everybody is enjoying right now? I will say that next to Dredge, he is one of my favorite characters in terms of visual and sound design. I find him truly horrifying. The teasers were absolutely terrifying, especially that one filmed inside of a tent. But filmed, CG, but made to look like it was filmed from inside a tent. Its lore is pretty great too, though it is told from the perspective of another character named Olivia, which actually makes me very curious to see Olivia hopefully come as a survivor one day to the game. That would be great because I want to know more about her story. And so the Unknown's lore is really more about Olivia and less about the Unknown, except for it gives us a little clue as to when the Unknown came into the entity's realm. So there's a lot of mystery there, but I still enjoy it. But I love that it ties together with Michaela and Sable's lore. I just find that crossover stuff very cool. All in all, the Unknown is a great character, and I'm curious to see if it'll maintain a high spot on this list. So I guess technically the Unknown wins it all, but we could also make the argument that it's a little too soon to tell, and so for now, Oni should maintain that crown? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. Oni or Unknown, who should be the winner? As for my favorite overall, I'm gonna give you a top 3. In third place, which may surprise you because she's my main, is Plague. I love her lore, I love her design, I think her gameplay is really engaging, but I'd actually say for number 2 is gonna be Huntress. I like her a little more. Her lore is incredible, her lullaby is haunting, and her gameplay is just downright fun. I love playing as the Huntress, I love playing against the Huntress, it's all good. And for my number 1, you probably already guessed it, it's gonna be Dredge. It's pure nightmare fuel, good creepy lore, incredible visual and sound design, its alternate cosmetics somehow make it more disturbing, and it brings the horror back into DBD by being scary to play against. All around a great character and my personal choice for number 1. But again, it's not my list, it's the community's list, so Oni/the Unknown ? Wins it all. So that is how you, the community, voted, along with some of my thoughts along the way. Now let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you liked the video, can you let me know by hitting that like button? And if you're not already subscribed, why don't you hit that subscribe button as well? Helps me out greatly. And as always, you are awesome, stay awesome, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.